What's up, everyone? It's been some time since our last video. We're back in action again, going over the previous UFC cards that have passed. There's been some changes in the divisions, changes in the all-around competition. So we'll start off with Jason. He'll kick us off with the question of the day, and then we'll get into the UFC 312, UFC 313, and catch up on everything that we missed. So go ahead, Jason. What's up?
As the question of the day is, would Alex Pereira be successful in the heavyweight division?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think because right now we've seen him jump from two divisions already. So going from the middleweight division to now the light heavyweight division and still finding success, I think it's very possible. I know that he's intrigued on that possibility. Just like all the other champions, they kind of want to move up. With him, I think he has a potential. I think physically, so like his build could be a heavyweight. You know, he might be on the lighter end of a heavyweight fighter. But I think the only thing that would kind of maybe stumble him is on his wrestling. I don't know. I think he might get out wrestled. What do you think?
And that's what I was thinking, because especially if he's going to be on the lighter side of a heavyweight,
Yeah.
imagine heavier guys, just one takedown and on top, ground and pound, and that's it.
So like a quick rundown of the heavyweight division. We got Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane, Alexander Volkov, Sergey Pavlovich, Curtis Blades, Jailton Almeida, Sergey Spivak, Marcin Tybura, and Derek Lewis. Not heavy wrestlers. I think aside from maybe Cyril Gane, and obviously John Jones is a big wrestler. So I think the only one that he have real trouble with is John Jones and Cyril Gane. I think the other ones he can manage in a striking sense, but I think where he'll come into problems and issues is when he gets to the wrestling. I think other than that, he'd be pretty good.
I think it'll be nice to see his, we'll actually see his hit power. Because there's a difference between hitting lighter guys and hitting heavier guys.
Yeah.
So we got to see if that power is actually...
If it translates.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, too, because, honestly, he didn't do anything against Magomed Ankalaev. We'll get into that fight a little bit more. That's a fight a week ago. And it wasn't, and Magomed is relatively the same size, if not a little bit heavier, coming in after the weigh-ins. So I think that had a lot to say about him fighting a guy that's a little bit on the heavier side. Because Magomed, I'm almost certain he weighs in heavier than Pereira on the day of the fight. So I think he does find success in the heavyweight division. I just think I have to defend wrestling on a different level because the guys are going to be heavier and he may not come in at the same weight. So to backtrack a little bit, we're going to start off at UFC 312. We're going to start off with the main card World Championship and kind of go by it real quick just because this has happened already and we've kind of been a little bit behind. So we have, with the first win of the night for UFC 312, goes to Australia with Jake Matthews. Now that was a pretty notable win for him, a guy that's been active in the UFC, not as active as we'd like, but definitely a really good showing out for him, and definitely something that you like to see in a veteran in the UFC. So he got a win for Australia, I believe a first for them in the World Card Championships, not sure. So after that we have Jimmy Crute and Rodolfo Bellato. They ended up in a draw, so neither country gets a point for the World Card Championships. That's just how we're going to do it. Going on to the next one, Justin Tafa and Thaleson Tejeda. Thaleson Tejeda grabs the win, so grabs a point for Brazil. Then we have Zhang Weili versus Tatiana Suarez. Zhang Weili grabs a point for Team China. And then Dricus du Plessis versus Sean Strickland. Dricus gets a point for South Africa. Obviously the first point for South Africa. With that being said, I think it was an overall kind of average card. It was leading up to the card, the planning of it, no one was really too excited. The main fight obviously did not live up to the hype. Strickland didn't fight to the hype that we thought he would have, right? The buildup that Strickland had for the fight did not deliver the actual fight, so that was kind of a letdown. But other than that, it was an all-around, I would say, average card. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. And then it begs the question, are we getting cold? Is there a lack of talent in these cards, in these main cards, in these pay-per-views? Is there a lack of excitement? And I don't want to say that quite yet because we are seeing a lot of competition for the belt and things like that. So I don't think we're getting a lack of talent. I just think it's some of these fighters are maybe being a little bit more reserved when it comes to the fighting. But other than that, I think it was a pretty average card. Okay, and then just to finish off the recap on UFC 312, any notable wins for there? I didn't really see many. The Jake Matthews win was pretty nice for him, but not really nothing to kind of propel him into a different atmosphere or stratosphere for that matter. That draw didn't do nothing for anyone. Talison Tejeda beating Justin Tafa was a nice win for him, but again, he's not fighting a ranked opponent, so that really doesn't do much for the division. Zhang Weili, Tatiana Suarez, Zhang Weili cementing her place as champion and as pound for pound, right? So, and then Dricus du Plessis beating Sean Strickland. Dricus winning here. The clear matchup for him is Khamzat. Will that happen? We don't know. I think he's still figuring out all his visa and stuff like that. So we do want to see Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat. Not sure if that'll happen, but the Dricus du Plessis winning kind of puts Sean Strickland in a gatekeeper kind of role for the top 5. Just because Sean Strickland has fought Dricus du Plessis, he has fought other guys in the top 5, it kind of just puts him as a gatekeeper for the top 5. So anyone coming into the top 5 will probably have to get through Sean Strickland. So that's kind of the fight that I'm thinking. We'll see. We'll kind of dive deeper into that later. But a very average card. Not sure if many things come from it, but that's kind of my take on there. Jumping straight into UFC 313, I think this is one of those cards that did live up to the hype. I think I was really satisfied with the overall quality of fights. I think it was really good. I know that the main fight didn't live up to the hype. I personally wasn't a fan of the main event, but other than that, I thought it was still a really good, solid card. Jumping in straight to the main card, World Championships, and then we'll kind of backtrack from there. Mauricio Rufy with a notable win, performance of the night win, grabs the point for Brazil. Amanda Lemos win for Brazil again, so 2 points right there for Brazil. And then Ignacio Bahamondes, first point for Chile, Team Chile, with the performance of the night. And then we have Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev, where Justin Gaethje grabs a point for Team USA. Of note, the first point for Team USA in the year 2025 in pay-per-view events. Of course, for the main card World Championships. And then Magomed Ankalaev gets a point for Team Russia. Sorry, 2 points for Team Russia because it is a title win. So that's how the main card championships will work, is if it's a title defense or a new title and new, then you'll get 2 points. So Magomed Ankalaev with 2 points for Team Russia. So with that, the grand total comes out to Brazil with 4 points. So let's go ahead and do Russia, since Russia's gotten these points off of championships. We'll do Russia at first place for now. We'll figure out how we deal with tiebreakers, but Russia comes with 4 points, defending the title twice, 2 points each, 4 points. Brazil with 4 points, all by each win, each different fighter, so that's pretty cool. Georgia with 2 points, China with 2 points, South Africa with 2 points, and then so on. We have the rest of the teams. So it's I'm kind of curious to see how we go from here with the main card World Championship, just because we see a lot of Brazilian fighters winning, and then we see a lot of the Russian fighters winning their bouts, either to win titles or defend their titles. I think if Umar would have beat Merab, Russia would be at 6 points now. So of note, if you lose those title bouts, or if you lose in the main card, it makes a big difference. And we see it here with Justin Gaethje, the first to get a point for Team USA. So pretty cool. Now we move on to the next. What we have is, like, I guess this is a question for you and me, is like, do we want the UFC pay-per-views to continue being pay-per-views, or we would rather have them as a streaming, like you know how Netflix had the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. So this past UFC 313, ESPN had problems with the actual pay-per-view. So if you were trying to buy the pay-per-view, they just gave it to you for free, because they were having some sort of systems or some sort of software where you couldn't buy it, or you bought it and your program would freeze. So there was no point in it, and ESPN was like, okay, well, if you have ESPN Plus, then you get to either rewatch the fight or watch it live without having to pay. So there begs the question, like, okay, like for example, Magomed Ankalaev didn't get pay-per-view points, but Pereira did because he's a champion. So does he get paid in pay-per-view points? Does he get back pay, or how does that work, since no one really paid for the pay-per-view, and if you did, you got your money back? So I think it just begs the question, like, are we just in a streaming where we might just do ads and more commercialized? I know that once this year finishes, they're negotiating with many providers. So I guess it begs the question. So what do you think?
Oh, I mean, I kind of see it, but I kind of don't. Just because, like, this is the first.
Is wrestling still? Is WWE still doing
I
pay-per-views?
think they're still doing pay-per-views. Well, they call it premium live events now.
And you have to pay for them.
Yeah, I believe so. Because right now, I think they just have like the weekly shows on Netflix on Monday Night Raw. But
Yeah, I mean, I would like the pay-per-views to go away. I think they can make the money back through ads or something. I mean, they run a lot of ads already on the actual Octagon. I don't see what's the point of just running some more ads and then just making it free. I mean, I think that would be the best thing for it. I think if Netflix, I think if even ESPN Plus stuck with UFC and was like, hey, like, okay, for UFC Plus, you get a one-time payment every year to get the UFC package, like the Fight Pass, but the Fight Pass now also includes. So let's say like the ESPN Plus is $50 and the UFC Fight Pass is $200. I think a lot more people will buy those $200. Sure, you'll make maybe a little bit less money theoretically doing it that way, but not everyone's buying the pay-per-views. Like sometimes a lot of people are going to the bars, you know?
I mean, but you gotta also think about if you bought ESPN and you got the thing, I'm like, hey, who delivered by your password? You know what I mean? Your account
yeah,
share.
it'd be like kind of like a Netflix show
Yeah,
thing.
so it's just that's what I'm saying. It's like up in the air. I feel like they should keep it a pay-per-view because it's like the first pay-per-view that's ever fucked up. I don't think Dana's ever gonna be like, oh, let me panic.
Right.
So
Well, there's
say
just been talks that they're gonna get rid of them.
So that's what I'm saying. We're just gonna see how it writes out more out throughout the year. Because unless they do that, I really don't see any pay-per-views going away.
Yeah. Well, that was a big thing that happened in UFC 313. Aside from that, the actual fights were eventful in my opinion. The wins were of note. Rufy with the crazy knockout. I see him in the interviews and the post-fight interviews and things like that. I do see another motivated individual. Yes, kind of Hezano Moicano-esque type fighter. But I do see him motivated, and I picked Moicano to beat Islam because of his motivation. And it might be me getting kind of played there, or I don't know what's going on there, but I do think Rufy makes the top 5 at least in that division. I think that's very possible in the lightweight division, just because he does have, from the style of fighting that he brings to the fight, it's something different. Jason, you got to watch this guy. Like if you watch his highlights, his debut highlights is crazy. He's sliding across the octagon. He's doing these crazy kicks. He won this fight off of a windmill kick, which is just crazy. His foot landed perfectly on the temple of King Green, which that's not something really easy to do, because King Green is now like a notable UFC fighter, kind of veteran. Sure, he's not ranked, but he's been through the fire. So I think that was a very big win for Rufy, or however you say it. So I think that's a very top guy to watch. I know we had a lot of people were saying Renato Moicano could be champion by the end of the year. I think this guy came out of nowhere, and he could at least be a contender. And then after that, we have, Justin winning and beating Rafael Fiziev again. That was kind of a close win for Justin. I don't really see him being in title contention because of that win. Sure, the case can be made. He's won his last 3 out of 4 fights, but I don't see him putting up a fight against Islam. I don't think that's going to happen. So I think if anything, he earned a fight against Charles or Arman Tsarukyan, if anything. Other than that, I think we have Amanda Lemos wins. Not sure how that changes the division. Kind of stagnant division, if you ask me. Nothing too exciting there. Ignacio Bahamondes with a crazy submission win. So we'll see how his career unfolds. He beats number 13th ranked. So hopefully that propels him into the top 10. We'll see how that goes. Again, Justin, maybe Armin or Charles. And then Magomed Ankalaev. We'll see who he fights. I think the best fight for him is Yuri Prochazka. We'll see if they give him that fight. I know that Magomed has been saying that he's not going to fight him. He doesn't deserve it. But I don't see who else is really for him. I mean, I guess you could do the Pereira rematch, but I have other views about that. I think Pereira should just move up to the heavyweight and fight John Jones or Tom Aspinall. I just think the light heavyweight division is not that exciting. In my opinion, it's only exciting because Pereira was champion for so long, and then other than that, I think wherever Pereira goes, he takes the excitement with him, the hype with him, and then we already have two hype fighters, John Jones and Tom Aspinall. If you want to create a mega fight, you pair any of those three together, and it's a crazy fight. So that concludes UFC 313. All right, and to finish off, we're gonna go over the fight forecast. I know that before we talked, me and Jason had talked. We were like, okay, will Ilia Topuria actually vacate the title? Since then, he has vacated. Since then, we have the new featherweight championship with Alexander Volkanovski. All right, and to finish off, we're gonna go over the final fight forecast. I know me and Jason had talked about it before, and we were asking each other, will Ilia Topuria actually vacate his title and move up? Since then, that has happened. Now we have Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez, which should be a pretty interesting fight. I'm not sure how that plays out. I still think Volkanovski's level is above these guys. I don't think Diego Lopez is going to win. I'm going to be straight up. I don't see how he beats Volkanovski. Volkanovski's been fighting crazy guys. He's been fighting Topuria. He's been fighting Islam. You put him against Diego Lopez, and yeah, sure, like Topuria had a notable win against him, and so did Islam, but Islam and Topuria are easily at the top of the game, at the top of the charts. When you put somebody against like Diego Lopez, it kind of almost seems like a tune-up fight. Forget the disrespect, but it's just kind of like, it's kind of crazy. I really didn't like the matchup too well, if I'm being quite honest. I would have much rather seen Max Holloway versus Volkanovski. I don't know if Max Holloway wanted that fight, but that's where we're at now. I think the best thing for Ilia Topuria right now is fighting Islam. I don't see him fighting anyone else. And I just think because he has that star power, he has those chips to bargain with. If I'm Ilia, I'm sticking it out for the Islam fight. If you pair Islam with anyone else, no one wants to see Islam Charles. We want to see Islam Arman, but Dana kind of doesn't really like that idea so much. I don't want to see Islam Justin. I think Islam will blow by Justin. Don't want to see Islam versus Max. Don't want to see Islam versus Dustin. He kind of just stuck with Ilia Topuria anyways, in my opinion. So I think that's the fight to make. Other than that, the other fight that I do want scheduled as soon as possible is Kamaru Usman versus Ian Gary. I'm not sure when Ian Gary's going to get back in there, and it's been some time since we've seen Kamaru Usman, so I think that's the best fight. I think Kamaru Usman kind of serves as a sort of gatekeeper as well. With Ian losing against Rakhmonov, I think that's the best option for him, is beating Usman, getting some more hype around him, and then propelling him back up to a title contention bout. But other than that, that's the fight that I do want to see scheduled. And then recently we found out that Reiner de Ridder will be fighting Bo Nickel. Now, me and Jason has spoken about this on the previous video, which you guys did not get, but I did have Reiner de Ridder fighting somebody the likes of Bo Nickel, just because I didn't see Bo Nickel taking on anyone else. I really didn't see him. We haven't really seen much of Bo Nickel, and he's been kind of quiet in the scheduling of fights, which I'm honestly not a fan of. I think Bo Nickel should be way more active. He may have personal things going on, but if he's the guy who he says he is, we need to see more activity out of Bo Nickel, and we just have not seen that. So it's kind of unfortunate that it's taken this long for him to schedule a fight. And RDR did just have a win, a notable win in the beginning of the year. So I think it's going to be a very good fight. I think RDR coming off a win against Kevin Holland, who is a veteran, kind of like King Green, says a lot about who RDR is, and a submission win at that. So you got kind of like I wouldn't say a submission artist, but somebody that has that capability against a wrestler. I think that's a really good matchup. So real good job by the UFC on scheduling that match. Lastly, I think the best fight, the fight to make right now and the fight to announce to get some sort of hype going on for the future pay-per-view cards is Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier. I think that's the best fight. I know we had a Max Holloway Justin Gaethje fight, and I thought that was a really good fight. Everyone enjoyed it. Obviously, fight of the night, and obviously ended off in a crazy knockout. I think that's a recipe. I think the Max versus Dustin Poirier is also a recipe for a great fight, potentially being Dustin Poirier's last fight. I don't see why that can't happen. So I think that kind of concludes this episode. We will definitely kind of stay up to date with everything that's going on. A lot of good things coming out of Mauricio Ruffi's mental space. I know that win, and I know the journey to the UFC hasn't been easy for him and the Fighting Nerds, so it's pretty nice seeing them as a team kind of grow together and seeing him just absolutely explode on the scene. So there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of up-and-coming fighters, so I'm not surprised if we get a lot of cracks into the top 10 in many different weight divisions. So other than that, I think that concludes this episode. Till next time.